Hey guys, it's Lefty, back again in glorious 1080p, so I implore you to crank that beach if you are so inclined. But I want to talk to you today about some political news. Don't worry, not partisan stuff. This shouldn't stick in anybody's craw politically or ideologically speaking, or at least I hope not. But this does involve politics of sort, and I think it's something you all should be aware of, at least in America. Hell, everywhere. I mean, if you're aware of representatives of your government doing this, wherever you are, you should be aware of things like this and on the lookout for ominous happenings like this. But this happened after last night's State of the Union address from President Barack Obama. U.S. Representative Michael Grimm, which is actually kind of a dubious, or I guess ominous name for a government representative, was being interviewed by a New York cable news station. He's a representative from New York, Michael Grimm is, and he was being interviewed by Michael Scotto for NY1, and they were talking about the State of the Union address, and as a closing question, Scotto wanted to ask Grimm, the representative, about pending investigations or allegations of misuse of funds or improper accruement of campaign funds. Allegations have been levied against Grimm for a long time, supposedly. There's even a federal probe that I believe went public recently, and has resulted in all these allegations. And Scotto wanted to slip in a question at the end of the interview about the State of the Union address, which probably isn't necessarily unethical, but I chalk it up to gamesmanship. If you are a political figure, you know that there are going to be little jabs, little stickers from reporters whenever you give them an in the form of an interview. So not completely uncalled for, not completely unreasonable from the reporter Scotto. But Grimm, the representative from New York, apparently got really upset by this. He was very upset, to the point of threatening to throw Scotto, the reporter, off the balcony the two were perched on. Yes. When asked about when Scotto started to launch into his question, Grimm immediately cut him off, interjected saying, I'm only here to talk about the State of the Union address, and that is all I have time for. And then in the middle of Scotto's question, didn't even give the man time to finish, walked away, which is which in and of itself would have been just bad publicly. But then, after Scotto signed off to the station, did his sign off, I don't believe it was live. I don't think it was a live piping to the cable news system. It was probably just a recorded header that they could just play later on for their news broadcasts. But after Scotto did his sign off, Grimm came back into the shot and got into the reporter Michael Scotto's face, and very clearly, you can hear it through Scotto's microphone, very clearly said, "Let me be clear to you. If you ever do that to me again, I will throw you off this fucking balcony." And that is a direct quote. You can very clearly hear it if you go watch the video. I'll link it in the description for yourself. You can go watch it if you please. And then there was an inaudible exchange. Scotto was trying to defend himself as being reasonable in his line of questioning, which, again, not completely unreasonable. Chalk it up to gamesmanship, right? They do that stuff all the time. If you're a seasoned government representative, you should be skilled enough in the art of bullshitting to just eloquently sidestep questions like that you aren't prepared for or just don't want to answer. Grimm did none of these things, stepped away in a rather rude manner, and then came back and threatened the reporter physically. And then later on, after an inaudible exchange, is again heard to say, Grimm is, "You're not man enough. You are not man enough. I will break you like a boy," end quote. And this is very troubling in a few respects. One, this is a representative. Well, I guess it's not that bad because he is a representative. That's the whole idea. That's why the House of Representatives exists. It's supposed to be more volatile and be more representative, be more of a closer representation to the actual human or the actual U.S. populace. That's why there's more of them. That's why they serve shorter terms. The U.S. House of Representatives is supposed to be more finger on the population, or finger on the pulse of the population organ of the U.S. Congress. But he's still a government representative, resorting to violence, threats of violence, actual credible threats of violence, and apparently getting away with it. And that's the first troubling part, is because imagine if you or I, right? I'm a schmuck, I'm a nobody, just like maybe you. I don't know. Maybe you're Justin Bieber. I don't know. Hi, Justin. You're a dick. But but anyway, imagine it's just you and I talking, right? And I've got my camera, I'm live streaming it or something, right? Ooh. And then you say something I don't like, and I threaten you with violence. And I say, you see this bat right here? I'm going to pick up this bat and bash your brains in because I don't like what you say. That's assault. That is a very credible threat of violence. You would be reasonable in thinking, holy crap, this is probably something the lefty might do. I wouldn't do that to you. I love you. You're very nice. You're probably a very nice person who has a gigantic wang. Or if you're a girl, you're probably very pretty or something. I don't know. But if I were to do that, it would be a credible threat, and you would have action against me. You could press charges. If a police officer witnessed it, you didn't even have to press charges. If the police officer witnessed it, I could be arrested and brought up on charges and probably convicted. But something tells me this isn't going to happen to Representative Grimm. I still like that name, Grimm. Very ominous. So it's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to be arrested. Probably not going to be perp walked. As sweet as that would be to see this smug bitch perp walk, that would be great to see, but it's probably not going to happen. And that's scary. I mean, that is scary that on camera, a representative of the United States government, an elected official, can physically threaten a reporter, anybody, and not be brought up on charges, and not be brought up immediately on charges. I'm talking about police officers going into his office and arresting him, bringing him out in cuffs, walking him down the steps of Congress, and escorting him to the police station. That's not going to happen, and that's a little bit scary. And I don't know if Michael Scotto is going to press charges, but something tells me not much is going to come from it. And here's the second part of why it's very, very scary, and why you should care about it very much, and why you should be very worried that and keep an eye on this whole situation, is because here we have a representative of the government talking to a reporter, the embodiment, or the supposed embodiment, of the First Amendment. Freedom of the press is a big deal in the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Now, I do think that sometimes reporters may hide behind that a little bit too much, in the same family photo as police officers hiding behind their authority to just give bullcrap orders and expect you to follow them, and when you don't, they arrest you. They're not the same thing, but they're in the family photo in terms of how related they are. Cousins, maybe. But I think reporters sometimes do that, and the right to know and the freedom of the press, I can do and say pretty much whatever I please. I do think sometimes they go overboard and use that as too much of a shield. But here we have the embodiment of freedom of the press, asking a pointed question, again, admittedly pointed, but not completely unreasonable, not caustic, not accusatory, didn't even get to the question, and was threatened with physical violence by the object of that question, by the representative of government. And that's scary because that's an attempt to stifle the First Amendment. That is, when you watch the video, you are watching an attack on the First Amendment. A very literal, well, not a literal attack, a very little threatened attack on the First Amendment. Representative Grimm used the threat of physical violence to stifle a reporter, to stifle the freedom, the First Amendment protected rights of that reporter, to stifle dissent, to stifle possible critique or questioning or disclosure or transparency, to stifle all that. No. And if you do it, I'm going to hurt you. That is what Representative Grimm has done. And that's scary. And that's very scary. Because if that becomes acceptable, if you tell other people that, hey, yeah, you could do that, yeah, it's okay. Go ahead, threaten a reporter with violence when they ask you a question you don't like and that you don't want to answer. That's okay, yes. That is a very scary precedent to set. That is a very scary world to live in where that is okay. Where, yes, you have freedom of the press rights, you have freedom of speech rights, your First Amendment rights are guaranteed unless you ask a government representative a question they don't like. And then they can threaten you with physical violence to try to stifle that. That is very scary to me personally, and I think it should be probably pretty scary to you, regardless of your political affiliation, Republican, Democrat, third party, Green, Libertarian, whatever you are. that's a scary world to live in. And I hope that there are very serious consequences for Representative Michael Grimm. I hope expulsion from the U.S. House is very rare. I think there have only been 5. It requires a 2/3 majority vote to expel a House of Representatives member, but there are avenues to publicly decry this person, not just criminal charges. Censure is one that we had one, I believe, 2010, and I think that at the very least is an avenue that should be discussed at the very least, because that is a government official, a government representative, a representative of the people, trying to stifle the voice of the people, or a voice of the people, when asked a question he didn't like. And you should all be very, very scared if nothing comes of this, if no punishment comes from this. This is it pains me to think of what comes next, and where we are and where we are headed to, with what that says about our society and what is okay and what is not okay. So keep an eye on this. Let your representatives know that you want them to, at the very least, censure Michael Grimm and seriously consider expulsion. If you are one of those people that like to contact your representatives of government, please do so. Tell them, contact them, say, hey, this is not okay. You need to censure him, and at the very least, you need to try to expel him, because you cannot have a representative of us trying to stifle one of the beacons of the First Amendment in our society. That is a very, very serious line to cross. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I got to get out of here. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe. The march to 100K subscribers continues forward. I thank you all for joining. Again, likes and favorites are appreciated, as well as subscribing. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I am out. Peace.